What's up? Hey, how you doing, Hank?
I think I might have to sit over here with you.
You have to go over there. You can't
That's
be too
what I'm
close to
saying.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's the
Oh, how is it going? Where? But yeah, you're gonna have to. You can't be that. You'll have to be over there. I can't have you too close. There's a restraining order.
What are you doing? You got special plans for the holiday?
I have no I'm gonna get some rest. I've been on the road every week this month, and I'm ready to be home. Just yeah. I am taking my son and I are going to Baltimore this weekend because the Patriots are playing the Ravens, so we're gonna go to the game. But then that's the last airplane I'm getting on before. Yeah. What about you?
No, my son moved into a new apartment down in Atlanta, so I'm gonna go down and help
Oh,
him get
nice.
settled in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a whole lot of nothing. Yeah.
Your first official one.
All right, good morning. We are here in the case of the United States of America versus the City of Ferguson, case number 416CV180. In this closed case, we are monitoring the consent decree compliance that's going on and has been for some time. And this is a public hearing, although we're not having spoken comments from the public today. I did receive one letter, and I do appreciate that. I want to mention to the people who are here in the audience, I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate your work and the interest all the citizens are showing by being here. I know many of you are the people who come all the time, and I'm glad that you continue to do so, even though it's been a while, as well as the city officials. So welcome, and I'm glad to see you. I'll ask the lawyers to start by just identifying yourself for the record. For the plaintiff? For the city, for the Department of Justice. I got to look at the right people. Go ahead.
Good morning, Your Honor. For the United States, Jeffrey Murray.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Murray. And for the city?
Good morning, Your Honor. Ryan Price for the City of Ferguson.
Okay. And for the monitor?
Good morning, Judge. Natasha Tidwell on behalf of the monitoring team.
So as we will progress in the normal way, and that is that we'll start by hearing from the city, and then we'll go to the Department of Justice and then to the monitor, and to bring everybody up to date on the status and bring me up to date on the status. And so, Mr. Prysock, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to thank the court for its patience in allowing us to get here. With us this morning are the city manager, John Hampton, Councilwoman Noah and Covington, Chief Doyle and Mayor Jones, as well as the City of Ferguson's Consent Decree Coordinator and Public Relations Director, Pat Washington, who you have heard from before. Unless there's any questions for me, I'll go ahead and let her give you the report.
Well, I guess before we hear the report, I guess I would like to know if there's been any change on the budgeting issues. Obviously, in this consent decree, the city is obligated to pay what it's obligated to pay, and there's nothing around that. But I know there was an issue about whether they had budgeted the money for it, and there was some discussion that by the end of the year, they thought originally, back when they said they were only budgeting for the first half of the year, there was some discussion that by the end of the year there would be some movement on that, or Mr. Carey indicated he was hopeful for that. Has there been any change in the status?
It continues to be a matter of discussion. Certainly, the city meeting its obligations is something that the city takes very seriously, and that we counsel accordingly. I know DOJ has been, and the monitor has been very good partners in helping us project, what the cost of compliance in the future is going to look like, and so we're taking that information into account as well. Other than that, our budget is made in June, but so there's nothing groundbreaking to report. Just we continue to be certain that we will continue to meet any obligations under the law.
Right. Okay. And that's what I just wanted to make sure, that there's the fact of the problems or the issues that the city may have in doing its budget doesn't minimize the issue that there is, that you have to pay if there, what we're doing is what has to be done. There's no lessening of obligations under the consent decree. And I just want to make sure the city and all the people in the city understand that.
Absolutely,
Okay?
Your Honor.
All right. So go ahead.
Thank you. With that, I'll invite Ms. Washington to the podium to give her report.
Ms. Washington?
Good morning, Judge Perry. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to once again come and provide you with an update on the work that we are doing to not only meet compliance, but to build, a model police department and government operations in the city of Ferguson. So I'm happy to be here. And I want to start today with just a look back before we go forward. So on September 4th, 2014, the United States Department of Justice notified the city that it was initiating an investigation into the Ferguson Police Department for an alleged pattern or practice of unlawful misconduct pursuant to the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, among others. The DOJ issued a 102-page written report on March 14, 2015. The report documents the DOJ's findings on a number of patterns or practices of unconstitutional conduct, and it detailed the DOJ's concerns about a number of Ferguson's police and court policies and practices. But I want to focus on paragraph 3 of the consent decree, because it says that while the city does not agree with every finding or opinion referenced in that pattern and practice investigation, the city, and I quote, desires to focus its attention and resources on implementing a better community-oriented policing model and to become an exemplar of modern community-oriented policing for the entire region and other cities of similar size. And for the past 10 years, the city has focused its efforts on becoming that exemplary police department and model government, setting the standard for community policing. Many have contributed to that effort, and progress, although tortuously slow sometimes, continues to be made. So it's hard to believe that we are at the end of 2025. I can't believe that it's a week before Christmas. It seems like we just started the year. And so today, as I summarize our latest efforts, I do so from a place of gratitude. And I think that given the season, it just feels appropriate. And I'll start with a staffing report from the police department. We have had some new members hired since our last hearing. We are up to a total of 48 sworn officers, making our staffing of the police department in terms of what is budgeted for the department up to around 90% or more of the allocated staffing. And while that is excellent progress and recruitment continues, I should point out, as Chief Doyle noted on our most recent call, that the staffing model that we currently employ is based on a population density. But we need a new staffing model because of the volume of calls that we get at the Ferguson Police Department, which is one of the highest call volumes in North County. Our officers don't always have the opportunity for community policing because they are just running simply from call to call. It wears them out mentally, it wears them out physically. And so we are starting to see, and have some concern about vacation and sick time and use, and we know that that is because of the volume of calls that we are getting. And so we are going to be looking at a new staffing model and an allocation of resources so that we can provide our officers with the rest that they need and that we can allow them the ability to do their job to the best of their possible ability. The new officers that we have hired are phenomenal, Judge Perry, and I really want to take a moment to point that out because we're not just recruiting anybody who wants to apply. The officers that are coming to the department are sharp. They are having an immediate impact. We have 2 officers, I think 3 officers, who just recently are off of their probationary period, and they are doing extremely well. And they are not only contributing, but while they are learning, they are teaching some of our other officers because they have a different perspective. They're younger officers, and they have had different experiences. And so we're very proud about that. As the staffing increases, Chief Doyle is preparing for a new promotions process because we need to fill some needed command level roles and some additional supervisory roles. So now that we have staffing levels up, we'll be able to commence that process very soon. And I want to point out that we are also looking at the recruitment of more veteran and older officers who have more experience because right now we are a young department. The hiring that we have done has attracted some, as I mentioned, some very talented new hires, but we're trending toward younger officers. They need more guidance, they need more leadership, and so we want to try to balance that a bit with finding more experienced officers. So we're being very intentional about recruitment in that regard. One thing I do also want to point out is that we continue to hear from the people who do apply and whether they are selected for a role with the Ferguson Police Department or not. One of the things that they continue to point out about their experience and why they wanted to join the department is because we are a reform-minded department, and we do focus on community policing, and that is attractive to people. We also have one applicant that has been approved to start the County Police Training Academy, and so we're looking forward to her joining the department after she completes her time successfully at the academy. I want to move now to training, if I can, please. The training schedule for October, November, and December was extremely rigorous, and we know that. Ms. Stevens and the training committee are to be commended for approving the curriculum, moving things through, and again, scheduling what is a phenomenal amount of quality training during this last quarter of 2025. I want to report that all of our officers are now SARA model trained. They have all completed the SARA model problem solving training, which, as you know, is foundational to community policing. We also have completed the first module of our supervisory use of force training. Captain Dilworth has completed that first module. There are 3 modules that we've had approved. We've also done the First Amendment training and the Stop, Search, and Arrest training, both high-quality trainings delivered in person to all of our police officers. We've done roll call trainings and refreshers about the use of body-worn cameras and reminders about how to activate, when to activate, when it's appropriate to deactivate. So those continued reminders are important because some of the findings that came out of our in the semi-annual report and of our previous audit had some concerns about our officers and the use of those cameras. So it was important that we find a response to that didn't involve some in-depth training, but was more appropriate for the roll call training and the supervisory oversight. The training committee and the training coordinator are currently meeting now to map out 2026, and this is important because not only are we mapping out the training that is to be delivered through 2026, but to your previous point, we are looking at the costs allocated for that training and being able to have a budget through 2026 that we can provide for the city manager and council so that they will have a clear understanding of really what it takes to complete training on an annual basis. Training delivery will change. We are moving to more hybrid training where there's a combination of virtual and in-person. We are doing more frequent scenario-based training instead of one long day full of scenario training, trying to have shorter bits of scenario training throughout the year because the feedback from the use of force scenario-based training that we had was absolutely phenomenal. It was a rigorous day. And everybody
It was a full day, right?
It was a full day.
Yeah.
It was a full day, and it was a lot. But when you looked at the surveys and the feedback that we received when we did our debrief, they found it beneficial, extremely useful, but it was rigorous. And I do want to take a moment to thank those members of the training committee and the CRB who participated as volunteers and helped us conduct that scenario-based training. But what we have talked about, it is going to be more effective to take those topics and break them up into smaller bites and use that scenario-based training spread throughout the year rather than on one big training day.
Yep, that makes sense. Go ahead.
So again, I do want to thank everybody who helped out with that because it was a heavy lift, and it turned out that it gave us a lot of information that we need to be able to provide a better training and learning experience for our officers. I also want to talk for a minute, if I may, about the community policing and engagement. Again, we talked about the budget process, and I want to specifically thank Chief Doyle and Chief Hampton for hearing me when I talk about the budget for community policing and community engagement. There's a great deal of conversation about the costs related to the legal fees and other things, but the programming that is inherent in our sustainability efforts costs money too. That's time, effort, resources. And so I wanted to be sure that we put together a very realistic budget for what the city can expect to implement community policing and community engagement on an annual basis. And so we're reviewing that budget. They have a number, and I've been assured that we'll be able to meet that number and provide those resources. So I'm confident that the programmatic side of the implementation will not be ignored. And that was key for me. I'm happy to report that our Safe Streets program, which is one of the signature programs of our community engagement and crime prevention plan, has been launched. We have already started to recruit the neighborhood volunteers who will work with a liaison at the police department to examine data that is neighborhood specific and help us come up with intervention strategies that are neighborhood based. So we expect to have that fully implemented by the first quarter of 2026. We also will restart our small group dialogue sessions first quarter of 2026. Those are essential for us to build that foundation of trust and to be able to get that feedback from members of our community as they engage with our police officers. The initial process and the way that we were conducting those dialogues made it extremely cumbersome and difficult to meet that obligation. Officers would have to come in for 3 or 4 weeks straight, and then we'd have to try to make sure that we had the residents who were able to come. Some would come to 1 session or 2 and then wouldn't come back. So what we've done with community mediation services, develop a workaround, and someone threw this analogy out, and I don't disagree with it. We are going to go almost to a speed dating form. So we have one room, we have officers and community members in a room. We have tables with various subject matters, and they'll rotate around the tables, and then we will have facilitated conversation the latter part of the day. And so that helps us cover a variety of topics all in one sitting, and it keeps us from having to pull officers off vacation days and come in on overtime. And it also helps us attract more residents who want to participate because they know that they don't have to give up multiple weekends or weekdays in order to participate. So we're looking forward to that in 2026. We've just launched a snapshot survey for the police department, and it helps me gauge. I wanted to do this to give us a quick sort of, not an in-depth survey or study about attitudes, perceptions, or beliefs about the police department, but really just a quick snapshot that we can begin to plan a longer in-depth survey. This survey is about 12 questions. It asks if they've had an encounter with police, were police courteous. It asks people, do they feel safe in their neighborhoods and safer this year than over last? We try to ascertain information from them in terms of community policing. Do they see police in their neighborhood? Do they see police at neighborhood meetings? So we just launched that survey on yesterday. It's open until January 9th. I sent out over 200 emails yesterday. Those will be going to community organizations. We've got QR codes that'll be posted at the library, the community center, pretty much everywhere you can workshop or play in Ferguson. And again, it's not an in-depth survey. It's not designed to capture narrative feedback. That'll come later. But it will give me, as I said, a benchmark. It'll give me something that as we're planning activities that we can be sure to address anything that's expressed as a concern and continue to do those things that people feel are valuable and useful. Our Youth Advisory Board, that's another big thing that I'm excited about. We are working very hard to establish that board. The Ferguson Youth Initiative Executive Director is on the Chiefs Community Engagement Council, and so they are working with us to put that in place. One of the ways that we are going to select youth for this advisory board is we're going to have a open discussion with our young people, and it's called Speaking Truth to Power, Ferguson Youth, and they are going to talk to us about their experience, their perceptions of police, their perceptions of their quality of life in Ferguson, and that is going to be in the spring of 2026. And from that gathering, we are going to be recruiting young people to serve on our youth advisory board. So I'm really excited about that. And that event is going to be at the Boys and Girls Club on West Florissant in the spring. I'm also happy to report that Chief Doyle and Detective Newman and Detective Woolridge recently had a briefing for our faith leaders. We're concerned about some of the incidents that have been happening across the country and even right here with violence in our places of worship. And so that was a very timely community engagement activity. We had probably about 25 houses of worship represented at that meeting. And not only were they provided with information about how to stay safe, but they also have the option of having a safety checkup at their house of worship by FPD and other agencies. So we want to continue to engage with them to help them feel safe. And we had them all, Judge. We had from the little bitty church on the corner that might have 8 members, right, to huge multi-campus congregations at that meeting. And some of them have very sophisticated security efforts, but they appreciated the information that came out of that workshop.
That's great.
And so we also conducted a neighborhood meeting, again, around being responsive to our community. And in full disclosure, this neighborhood meeting was conducted with my neighborhood association. I've only lived there for maybe a couple of years, and once my neighbors found out that I work for the city of Ferguson and specifically with the police department, they let me know about their concerns and some of the things that were happening in the neighborhood. And I shared that in a command briefing. Captain Dilworth arranged a meeting to meet with them. We had about 25 members of the neighborhood there. They came, they talked about neighborhood vandalism, they talked about car thefts, they talked about concerns with illegal parking. And based on that, there's a plan that's being put together for our neighborhood that was actually replicated from a plan from another neighborhood that we met with earlier in the year. So we are really being intentional about being responsive to neighborhood concerns. Now, I'd like to think that the responsiveness was not because I live there, but it is because that's what we do and that's who we are. And so I appreciated being there and listening to my neighbors and seeing that they did feel safe. Many of them have been there 40, 50 years. And it was the first time they'd ever come to the police department for anything. So that's progress. I also want to take just a moment as I kind of wrap up my comments here to talk about, to thank, we have our audit going on for our community policing and engagement. So I want to thank Dr. Lee Anderson for working with us, for thinking through things with us, and just being a trusted resource as we went through the audit. She's not here just checking the boxes and seeing what we're doing, but when we are mentioning that we need to look at something differently or think through something, she's been able to help us process, and I appreciate that. It just shows that it's not a punitive situation. It is really one where we are in partnership. So I do want to thank her for that. And I also want to note that we have started our Force Review Board. They have had I think 2 meetings now. Chief has appointed those 3 members. They are meeting. They are setting their process. They're putting their process together, starting to review different use of force cases and understanding how they are going to operate. And we had not had the Force Review Board. We had the Citizen, we had the CRB, but the Force Review Board had not been put in place. And so that is a major milestone for us in terms of that effort. And so I want to really, again, express gratitude for all the work that's being done. One of the things that I'm most grateful for is the work in our courts. And I've said this before, and I will repeat it here again. Our courts are phenomenal. The work that has been done by that team is nothing short of remarkable. And there's only one small thing that is keeping them from being in full compliance. And so I would ask again today that we move with all deliberate speed to rectify whatever that assessment issue is or evaluation issue is, because we need to get courts 100% compliance and start their review process. And so that will be a major step for the city of Ferguson and for everybody who engages with our court process. They have proven they are far better. They're not even a shadow of what they used to be. When they say they are firm, fair, and for everyone, that's exactly what I have witnessed in the operations of the court. So I would like to thank them for all the work that they are doing. And the sooner that we can get them a compliance finding, the better. So I've shared a little bit about our process and key areas, but I want to go beyond that checklist that I just shared with you, and I want to paint a picture of what progress actually looks like. Progress looks like the little black girl who, during a recent neighborhood association meeting in a park, trusted a white police officer enough to take his hand and hold his hand while she's walking through the park during the neighborhood association meeting. Progress looks like residents honking and giving a thumbs up to the FPD as they drove by a neighborhood roll call that we were conducting in the early morning hours at an apartment complex, when generally the only time they see us is when we're responding to a call. That's gratitude. Progress is the longtime resident of a neighborhood that's plagued by gunshots, who took to social media to say how nice it is to see Ferguson police patrols in her neighborhood, that they no longer feel isolated or abandoned. Progress is having a municipal court that is firm, fair, and for everyone, in which both the judges and the staff treat people with dignity and respect and provide them with the opportunity to rectify whatever wrong they are showing up in court for. Progress looks like ensuring that our chaplains get involved with families after there's been a homicide or other tragedy in a household. Progress looks like working with the entire community to prevent crime, not just blaming certain members of the community for the crime. This is what progress looks like, and it's what community looks like. Are we perfect? Not at all. But we are perfectly situated to be that model police department mentioned in paragraph 3 of the amended and restated consent decree in the United States versus the city of Ferguson. As we approach municipal election season, there is no doubt the political noise will increase, and the hyperbole and rhetoric of the misinformed will rage. But I implore my colleagues and all who have a part in moving this effort forward, do that which you are called to do. Don't get lost in the rhetoric, stay focused, and we'll continue to move forward. And for that, I'm thankful. Thank you, and I hope everyone has a happy holiday.
Well, let me ask you this, because you just mentioned it, and I know I could look it up and should know it, but when are the municipal elections? You say we're approaching that, but is that in the fall or is it in the spring? Spring, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have any. We'll see if there's any raised by the other comments, but thank you very much, and thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Prysock, any other presentations from the city or anything further?
No further presentations, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Murray, on behalf of the department.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't have many comments, but didn't want to create the false impression with the computer. The United States is very encouraged by the progress that's being made here in Ferguson. We're really glad to see so many areas coming up and coming online. And I even had the opportunity to sit in and listen in remotely on the supervised use of force training a few weeks ago, and I was very impressed by what I heard, both in the delivery by the instructor and the command of the subject matter and the involvement of the officers who were taking that training. I think over the coming few months, in the next quarter, our expectations will be that we hope to get together with the city's attorneys and work out whether there are parts of the decree that we can refine or streamline based upon either the progress that's been made or assessments of what is and isn't working, what is a must-have and what might be a good to have but isn't necessarily proving to be effective. None of that's been solidified yet, but it's something that we've started the conversations on it, and we hope to be able to bring that through to some realization with a real focus on remedying these constitutional violations that our investigation uncovered 10 or 11 years ago. And I hope that we can get together and talk about that later today. Before the hearing, I also got a bit of a sneak preview from the monitor about what she's been finding in the recent assessments. Very encouraged by those. And I think if this progress continues, we can see real benefits from the reforms of the consent decree in the near future. And that's all I have, unless Your Honor has questions.
All right. No, I think that's fine. Ms. Tidwell, I know you have been working on all sorts of things, including the audits, and I am, like everyone else here, I think we're all hopeful that we'll find some areas where we can say, yes, that's done. We've got substantial compliance on some areas, which I think we're very close to.
Thank you, Judge. I also want to echo your thanks to the community member who took time to submit written comments in advance of today's hearing, and to also thank the members of the community who continue to engage meaningfully in this process and who show up here for these hearings and are at town halls and various other community events. So we appreciate their engagement and their continued commitment. As usual, Ms. Washington summarized most of the work completed and in progress since the last hearing, so I won't rehash everything. I'll simply highlight a few areas. During the last hearing in October, I updated the court on the monitoring team's most recent virtual town hall meeting, during which we presented an overview of the first part of the semi-annual report, which was filed in August. It was in that meeting that the monitoring team heard concerns and input from community members regarding the scope and approach to an audit of the city's compliance with the consent decree's community policing and engagement provisions. These conversations were crucial to our efforts to design an audit methodology that appropriately assesses the city and FPD's efforts and steady progress in implementing Chief Doyle's vision. The monitoring team thanks those members of the community who attended the town hall for their participation and thoughtful feedback. In November, the parties approved the proposed methodology that the monitoring team created based on that feedback. The audit, led by Dr. Lee Anderson, our lead subject matter expert in this area, who is here today, includes both on-site and virtual components. And I just would like to take a moment and ask Dr. Anderson to stand. I don't think you've had an opportunity to meet her.
I don't think I've actually met her. Yeah. I've heard your name a lot, Dr. Anderson. Thank you for being here.
Dr. Anderson has been in Ferguson this week and reports that the city and FPD have made significant progress towards substantial compliance with most of the community policing and community engagement provisions of the consent decree. As she described to me, based on her interviews of command staff members, FPD personnel, and community members, coupled with observations that she's made during ride-alongs and attendance at community meetings, the department is well on its way. So, I'm sorry. My computer has a mind of its own, so I'm going to...
You need to take a minute. Go ahead. That happens to all of us from time to time.
The department is well on its way to demonstrating substantial compliance. The foundational policies and plans that the monitoring team and the parties spent months, in some instances years, drafting and revising have been institutionalized and permeate the work of the entire department. The city is implementing those plans in creative and innovative ways, as you heard from Ms. Washington. Equally importantly, according to Dr. Anderson's report, is that the city also seems to know what it doesn't know, meaning that Chief Doyle and his team have a keen awareness of compliance gaps that may exist and are actively engaging internally and externally to determine the best path to address those gaps. We look forward to the completion of Dr. Anderson's work and thank the city for its efforts to facilitate her visit and ensure a smooth audit process. Community policing and engagement is a difficult and nuanced area to audit, as it does not lend itself to objective analysis of crime data and incident reports like other areas. Rather, it requires a hands-on, tactile approach. It is here, above most other areas, that the city's placement of committed staff in key areas is the most beneficial. City Manager Hampton and Chief Doyle have put a team in place that not only gets things done, but are also able to show their work in an organized and systematic way. This is not to say that the FPD's commitment to community policing and engagement is a recent phenomenon. As Ms. Washington pointed out in her remarks, it is not. The city has been doing the work for several years. However, without a coordinated effort and evidence of a systemized feedback mechanism demonstrating how all these pieces fit together and assessing compliance was a nearly impossible task. And I'm really heartened to see that we are well on our way to being able to dig in and give the city credit for the work that they've been doing for all this time. Since the last hearing, the monitoring team has also issued audit notices for 3 other areas: stop, search, and arrest, First Amendment protected activity, and use of force. The proposed methodology was approved, and our team has been working with Ms. Washington to obtain incident data that will shape our identification of the 100 or so incidents that will form the basis for the audit. Another update since the last hearing is in training, as Ms. Washington outlined. In the last hearing, I discussed one example of how Ms. Stevens and the training committee's work processes support overall compliance. It involved their incorporation of concerns raised by the monitoring team and the DOJ about FPD's reporting and investigation of uses of force. FPD incorporated that feedback into a curriculum for the supervisor use of force training. That training was delivered last month, and Darrell Owens, the monitoring team's lead subject matter expert in that area, observed one session. The session was led by Captain Dilworth, and Mr. Owens rated it as excellent, highlighting Captain Dilworth's mastery of the subject matter and ability to engage the attendees in a substantive discussion. Other trainings observed by the monitoring team received similarly high marks. The monitoring team's observations are included in the upcoming status report, but suffice to say, we are optimistic that the city's focused, evidence-based training will lead to better outcomes in subsequent audits and ultimately substantial compliance. The monitoring team has upgraded its compliance assessments for the trainings that it recently observed, and those updated assessments are will be in the next semi-annual report. That report in draft form was sent to the parties earlier this week. Pursuant to the consent decree, the parties have 15 days to review and to comment, and once that review period ends, we will file the report, likely in early January. The report includes compliance assessments for the consent decree sections that were not included in the August 2025 semi-annual report, specifically sections 13 through 21, which includes supervision, recruitment, accountability, and civilian oversight. The monitoring team also included in the draft report the findings of its accountability audit for the parties to review while they were reviewing the semi-annual report. I gave a preview of the compliance assessments in those remaining areas, as well as a lengthy summary of the accountability audit's findings, including potential growth areas during the last hearing, so I won't rehash them here. At a high level, I will just say that the audit revealed that FPD has made great strides in the development and enhancement of its internal investigations function, particularly in the wake of the centralization of that function in a single command led by Lieutenant Rice. Since 2022, FPD's investigations exhibited an increasingly improved level of organization, focus, and accessibility to decision makers. Similarly, investigative practices became more rigorous and standardized, with more in-depth questioning of complainants, witnesses, and FPD personnel. While improvement opportunities remain, we were generally pleased with the degree of FPD's compliance with the consent decree in this area, especially given the department's size and available resources. Because these streamlined and improved processes were best illustrated in the post-2022 cases, many of the provisions in the accountability and civilian oversight sections received partial compliance ratings based on our view that the sample size did not yield enough information to warrant a substantial compliance finding at this time. The disciplinary outcomes is one such area where we just need more data to issue a compliance assessment. As such, we will make a supplemental request for documents to include investigations from this past year and update our compliance findings accordingly. Those preliminary findings will be included in the semi-annual report when filed, and as in the past, after the report is filed, the monitoring team will schedule another virtual town hall meeting to provide an overview to the community and to answer questions. To the municipal court, Ms. Washington renewed her call for completion of the municipal court's self-assessment. I know that the parties were working collaboratively to create a tool by which the city could demonstrate its compliance with the provisions in that area, so that based on the monitoring team's view that auditing by the monitoring team was no longer necessary because the city could demonstrate that it is, as Ms. Washington said, working and complying with everything. We look forward to reviewing whatever work product emerges from that joint effort, and the monitoring team stands ready to work with the parties to get that section, to terminate that section successfully and focus on other areas. So I'll leave it there unless the court has questions.
Well, I think that's a very a good place to leave it because it sounds optimistic. I'm hopeful that is where we're headed. I think the initial things I've seen indicate that, to some extent, where you haven't been able to reach conclusions is because you just didn't have enough incidents to audit, and that's fine. That means, that you need to audit more, right? That's what, and I know that's the tack you're taking, and I am, but I appreciate it, and I think there's a lot going on with the auditing, and that's a big function of the monitoring team throughout. Obviously the monitoring team has been intimately involved in all the policy developments or review of the developments that have been agreed to by the parties and suggestions, and helping with subject matter experts. But then also now that we're to the point of auditing, it's a lot. And that's a very important part of the consent decree. We have to not just know that, everybody says we're doing it. We have to actually see that we can show that it's being done. And that is why it's so important. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Murray, after everything's, I'm sorry, I'm going to the wrong person. I'm looking at Mr. Prysock and calling him Mr. Murray, and you should know when I'm in trial, I do that all the time to the lawyers. So, anyhow, Mr. Prysock, did any of this? Do you have anything further to add, given everything everyone else has said?
Just one quick note, Your Honor. I neglected to mention we also have Miss Michelle Richmond, Captain Dilworth, and Miss Lisa Stevens with the city. They're very dedicated public servants, and I've worked with them personally, so it would have been a disappointment if I had failed to acknowledge them. So I just wanted to make sure I did so.
And I want to thank them, too, because I know they have done a lot. The training has been terrific, and, of course, I've said this before, the community court system changes have been amazing, and all of you, and Captain Dilworth is, once again, always going above and beyond. I don't know how this process could have gone forward without him and all his contributions. Mr. Murray, now I'll turn to you. Anything else you'd like to add, given what everyone else has said?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. And so, Mr. Murray, I do appreciate that your newness, but I know you're dedicated to this, and it's very important. And so thank you, and I'm glad we get to not be in a government shutdown anymore, and hope we don't have any more coming. But one of the things is, if the worst should happen, we should end up in another shutdown in January, which I have no more knowledge about than anybody else as to whether that might happen. Well, I'm hoping it will not, because it's very hard on everyone. But we'll move forward on this, because whatever happens, this case will move forward. I will be at work whether the government shuts down or not, as well. And the courts because the court's function is essential, and because we can't stop, we do continue. It's very hard on our employees not to be getting paid, of course, but we will be here. And if anything should happen where it wouldn't go forward, I hope it would be very short. And surely the politicians know better than to make us do that again, spoken as a non-politician. But I do want to thank everybody here. I am we've talked the last couple of times we were here, and then with the changes we had with the turnover in lawyers as well as the government shutdown, it was a problem and caused some hiccups, but it's really essential we continue on. As I said the last time we were together, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is what I see when I review this. This has been a long slog for everyone, but we're finally really moving. The momentum right now is exactly what we've needed all along. It's finally really happening, and it's happening in a way that I hope will be we'll see real results here. And I'm hoping to, as we've said, the goal is for there to be substantial compliance with the provisions of the consent decree. And of course, for the real goal long term is that the city will continue in these improvements long after the consent decree period is over. When there's substantial compliance, we want the city to continue. This is not a one-time thing. This is a changing your life thing, as I think the city officials know and the workers certainly know. And I think we're really there. The idea that the Ferguson municipal courts have improved the way they have, and that the police department, that the people who want to work for Ferguson now are people who understand we're doing policing the right way, and we want people who are willing to do policing the right way, and that's the constitutional way, so it protects all the citizens. I mean, all citizens want constitutional policing, because constitutional policing is what protects us and works and protects everyone's rights. And so I think that's the goal, and it's the goal that this will continue long after the consent decree is concluded. But I am hoping in the meantime that we continue this momentum, because I'm very hopeful about seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and thinking that things are really happening. And these are important changes. I would just say that the comments that we've received before and at the last meeting, as well as otherwise, about the community members who were able to observe the training that went on in the police department and how impressed everyone was with that. These are things that are just really important. It's what we need to be doing all the time, and I want to see that this continues. And I think the lessons from the training and the fact that, as was indicated, the city is the training is being modified to affect what you learned from doing the full day, but and also learned how effective that full day was. Everyone gave it very high marks, and seeing what actually goes into it is important. And I think getting the delivery methods down, fine-tuning those, is a really important thing. So I look forward to seeing the rest of the audit and the monitor's report, and to talking to you all again. And I do need to talk to the lawyers really briefly, because we didn't talk about the fact our next telephone call is scheduled for New Year's Day, and I'm not planning on being here for that day. So the following week would be my proposal. Let my office know if that following week at the same time, Thursday at 1 p.m., the following Thursday is not. If that doesn't work, notify my office, and we'll find another date to have a telephone call. But I meant to ask you all that earlier, and I forgot. So with that said, thank you to everyone here. You all have continued to come in, and I really appreciate it. The dedication the city has shown, and all the people sitting over here in the courtroom is really essential, and I want the city to continue doing that. You're doing what you ought to be doing, and this is to have an ultimate goal of having a police department and a city government that serves the people in a way that everyone can be proud of. And I think we're really getting there. And so I want to thank all the citizens who've come, and please keep coming. We appreciate your being here. And the next time you are here, obviously we'll hear from you if you wish to speak, and we're happy to hear from you all as many times as you want to speak. I'm looking at Ms. Butler. You're not the only one. But I hope everyone will continue to participate the way they have, and because it's helping for all of us. So with that said, I wish you all good holiday season, and let's keep moving, keep working. All right? Thank you very much for everything. Court's in recess.